Good evening, campers. I hope everybody is going well. A very, very warm welcome. A happy Friday to you all. Andy here, your professional human, bringing you the latest in the Professional Human series, sponsored, proudly supported by Anywhere Auctions. Thank you so much to those guys for giving us their love and support as always. Team, how's the week been so far? Out of 10, how has it been? Let me know. If you're in Melbourne, you're getting absolutely pissed on, by the way, outside. It's absolutely shocking weather out there. I don't know where spring's disappeared to. But anyway, how's Sydney going? First week of freedom, and the majority of people that I've spoken to up in Sydney have hardly done a damn thing, unless your name is S. Akbani. And yes, I have confronted her on the speed at which she managed to get a champagne glass in her hand. And she was quite happy with herself, to be fair. Jen, a humbling 10. Wow, good to see that, Jen. I hope you've had some success this week. I'm sure you have. Team, give us your scores on the doors in the comment section below. Let us know how your week has been out of 10 thus far. Interesting one for me. It's been a somewhat enlightening one. I've had a couple of really cool conversations with a few people, and some real deep conversations with a few people as well, which has been very, very interesting. A couple of quick shout outs before I crack on with tonight's topic. Firstly, big up Craig Turton and the team at 100 Words Mate to Mate, men's mental health charity. I know a few people personally. Everybody knows a few people that are struggling, having some rough, going through a bit of a rough phase. We're getting in towards the pointy end of the year from a family orientation point of view. So we've all been put through the ringer, and then Christmas bangs on the door as well. So this is when it gets really tense anyway for families and relationships and all that sort of stuff. So make sure you just keep an eye out on other people, please, and just check in with them, see how they're getting on out of 10. Troy, only a 1, man. Jeepers. Well, mate, if you're prepared to share, let us know why you're really in struggle town, man. But if you want to hit us up, send me a DM, mate. And if there's anything I can do to help, I'll be more than happy to, man. No one wants to see anybody at a 1. And I've had someone else actually report to me that they're at a 2 out of 10 yesterday. So let's get around those people, guys. Right? If you're kicking along at an 8, a 9, or a 10, or you're really on form and on fire, just share some of that momentum, share some of that abundance that you've got in your in whatever it is that you've got going on. I'm not saying just give people money and shit, but you know what I mean, that abundance in how much happiness, how much of a buzz you've got going on. Just share it about, right? Abundance is no good. There is no point in having abundance if you don't share it with people. It's just hard stuff. You can classify abundance by its definition, which is an abundance of sharing. Okay, so make sure you get around people, right? 5, got a cold. Will be an 8 once tonight's curry is ordered. Touche, my friend, touche. Rob Semo, by the way, team, for those in Australia that have an idea who I am, Rob Semo is one of my oldest mates. We've been top mates until since we're about 8, I think it is. So if ever you want any dirt, he's probably the guy you want to hit up, by the way. Unfortunately, not that I've got any dirt. Led a relatively boring life. Maxine, a 9 would have been a 10, but Australia Post didn't deliver a parcel, apparently. No, they did not. I promise I'm not just lying. Yes. It is in the ether. It is still in the ether. So, and he still talks. Yes, Maxine, he does still talk to me. Look, it's helped. I'm not going to lie. It's helped that I'm across the other side of the world, right? Yes, he does still talk to me. We actually have there's a small group of 5 of us that have known each other since we were very, very little, that have a WhatsApp group that whip around. I mean, there's about 20 odd messages I haven't looked at there. Team, let's crack on with tonight's topic, but please let us know. Keep telling us how you're getting on out of 10 as you jump on, please. Let us know how your week's been out of 10, and let us know if you want to share any success stories and help to share that abundance. That would be incredible. Happy to be the platform for that. Troy, I'm reaching. Troy, please hear me, mate. I don't like to see 1 out of 10s, mate. So please feel free to give us a hoy. That would be no listings and no sales. 1 out of 10 at best. How's your pipeline then looking then, Troy? How's your pipeline looking, my friend? Let us know how that's looking. And please DM us if you've got any particular challenges, right? Happy to chew the fat over a couple of DMs, man. So, if there's anything I can suggest, more than happy to. Team, on to tonight's topic. The gap. Mind the gap, as they say down in the London Underground. Mind the gap. You got to mind this gap, team, because it's growing. And you don't want to fall onto the tracks because that's where you get seriously hurt, right? What gap am I referring to? I am referring to the gap between sellers and buyers, team. The gap between sellers and buyers. It is growing whether you like it or not. It is growing whether you care to admit it or not. Now, I know that there is still a lot of vernacular around, the market's going great, the market's going crazy. I've spoken to 4 or 5 agents today and asked them how their market's going, and they're saying, the market's going, I'm so busy, every market's going crazy. And then I ask, right? But are you finding that your vendors, your sellers are starting to get ahead of themselves a little bit? And every single one, without fail, without hesitation, saying, oh yeah, man, the vendors are really starting to get hard work now. It's really starting to get difficult to get them into a frame of mind that is in reality, right? And team, this is probably one of the reasons why we, as an industry, I'm talking in generalities here. This is probably one of the reasons why we are so slow to react. We as an industry are akin to the Titanic, right? It generally takes an iceberg clipping our boats in order for us to start making any changes in any way, shape, or form. And by that time, the boat is starting to leak big time, right? Opportunities are starting to leak out of our business. Income, finance, wins are starting to just drift away, right? We start to sink, and then we start panicking, and then we start getting on the dinghies and just paddling for our lives and dramatically trying to just save whatever we can while we can. Gang, I really want to try and I'm going to sort of hammer along this train of thought over the course of the next couple of episodes, because I really need the industry to get this into their heads. You either play a reactive game or a proactive game, right? The vast majority of the industry is just so into the reactive space, it's not even funny. And only the elite are in that proactive space, right? Whereby their process, their procedures, their strategies are very much aligned, whether it is a good market, bad market, indifferent market. It's just all just the market to them, and their processes never waver at any stage. Way too much of our behavior is dependent on the type of market that we perceive it to be. And right now, we are still perceiving it to be this red hot rooster of a market, right? We're seeing the occasional sort of 300 grand over reserve or 600 grand over reserve or whatever it is, grand over reserve. And that is providing us with a real fallacy, right? It's providing us with a real false dawn that shit, we see this one amazing outcome, like, fuck, market's still good, market's still great, market's great. And it does my fucking head in, to be perfectly honest, team. One of the reasons why it does my head in is because auctioneers like me have to cop it the hard way, right? We're the ones that generally tend to be the first ones to face the reality, because we get put in between a rock and a hard place, in between where the vendors are and where the buyers are, which is fucking miles away at the minute, right? Gang, we've got to get on top of this. If you do not get on top of this, you are fucked royally, because stock, I'm hearing, is still relatively scarce to get a hold of. You cock up those bits of stock, not only are you going to spend way more time on trying to fix messes that you've created by just having this falsity in your head of how good the market is, when it is absolutely starting to change. And that is across the whole country. All right. This is the beautiful thing about being in the position that I'm in with Century 21 Better Homes and Gardens. I am actively working with offices in every single state. And it is happening, team. And every single time I have a conversation with people, and it's not just the 5 that I spoke to today, almost for the last month, first bit that everybody says is, "Oh, Mark, oh, fuck, so busy, so busy." And I'm telling, like I said a few episodes ago, busy is the shittest word on the planet, I reckon. And it just leads you into thinking that you're doing really well, and all you're doing is just flapping around. But as soon as I dig just a tiny bit further and say, how are your vendors handling it? Are your vendors getting any more difficult to keep on track with and stay on the same page? Oh yeah, vendors are getting real hard now. Vendors becoming real hard. Vendors are becoming real. Sellers are becoming real hard work. Fuck, we've got to pay attention to our language here, gang. And I might even open a massive can of worms next week, I reckon, just based off that shit, because that's a real bee in my bonnet. But when it comes to this particular topic, team, we have to be having conversations way earlier than what the majority of us agents are having. Okay. So this is the first point I want to make. Buyers are there, right? Buyers are there. And I'll come to some questions. I'll answer some questions in a bit, gang. But let me just go through what I want to say. Buyers are there. Yeah. I'm not denying that. Buyers have still got money, right? Still got money, and they're still prepared to spend the money. Okay. That's not, the whole APRA thing, false dawn, bollocks. The media blew it up to be something significant, when in reality, and by what I'm talking about, what I'm referring to, by the way, for those of you that don't know, and if you don't know and you're in the industry, then fucking pull your head out your ass and get with the program. Keep an eye on the macro situation as to what's going on. APRA, the governing body over all the lenders and whatnot, they raised that serviceability buffer from 2.5% to 3%. Meaning that if someone's advertising a 2.5% mortgage rate, then the lenders will judge you based on 5%. Now it's going to be 5.5%. The reality is most lenders were doing it at 3% with a 3% buffer anyway. No one was really going down to that bare minimum 2.5% buffer. So the majority of lenders still okay in that respect. It is the first sign that the government is putting pressure on the corporations to try and slow something down to it, or show like they're trying to slow it down, right? When in fact they know they need to keep it going. But anyway, so buyers are still there, still happy to spend the money. I say happy, they're starting to get shitty. Underquoting is a real thing, gang. I am not going to accept anybody saying that it's all the market, right? There's a difference between the market delivering you 200 grand over reserve, which can happen, and you saying that you get a 400 grand over reserve result when you underquoted it by 200 grand in the first place, right? And as an FYI, all you are doing to those agents that are blatantly doing it, and a lot of you are just doing it with such a thin veil, right? You're not even trying to hide it now. And that's partly because Consumer Affairs haven't got the balls to actually fucking do anything about it in any meaningful way. They'll target a couple of big names thinking that that's going to send shockwaves, but it fucking won't. You got to do it on scale if you're going to do something to Consumer Affairs, but you're too late now anyway. But what it is doing, gang, if you are one of those agents that really is taking the piss, you are adding to the disdain that our consumers have for our industry. Now, you might get that immediate result, granted, but you've got to bear in mind, buyers, fucking geez, they yap a lot more than any other element of our marketplace. They'll be so fast to rip you a new one on social media or anything like that, right? So you got to be damn careful, and you got to assess whether a bit more hard work to get a decent result is worth sacrificing to doing not a lot of work, taking a piss, and then hoping that you can just pull the wool over people's eyes, right? But here's my point with buyers. This is more of a psychological thing, in my opinion. As restrictions start to ease, and that is across the country, I know that Western Australia, you haven't got any restrictions. Good for you. Yes, we are jealous. But across the eastern seaboard in particular, as restrictions start to ease, right, what will happen is something subconscious. It will happen subconsciously, and no one will really pay any attention to this, but it will be significant. As restrictions start to ease, people generally will start to feel less under the thumb. Society will start to feel the freedom that they are accustomed to. Okay. The pressure that they are feeling in every element of their life, including the purchasing of property, will ease. Fact. 100% fact. The psychology of what's going to happen over the course of the next couple of months will result in that pressure that a lot of agents are relying on way too heavily right now will dissipate. Buyers will subconsciously, therefore, feel that they have a bit more power again, right? They will. It will absolutely happen. I will bet. I will go take a Pepsi challenge against anyone that wants to argue this against me in any way, shape, or form. In Victoria, on the 26th, if everything goes to plan and we're allowed open for inspections again, you can bet your bottom dollar that because those buyers do not have to approach or connect with an agent in order to get through a property again, because they don't have to do that anymore, they will feel like they have some more power. It will become harder to get bids at auction. And if you haven't got those buyers primed, and if you aren't on the same page as your vendor, that clearance rate is going to drop through the floor. 87% that was reported last weekend didn't account for the 500 or so auctions that never got reported. Like 500 out of 1,300. That's not a small amount. That's significant, right? Pay attention to that. The biggest issue that we have right now in the game, or one of the big issues, is we take everything at face value. We don't actually analyze anything to any small degree. We just take the face value and then crack on thinking that that's how it is. Buyers will feel that they have a greater control over their lives, ergo over their buying decisions. Gonna happen, whether you like it or not. All right, that's the first point I want to make. Here's the next one. This for me is a cardinal sin. Reserve conversations are happening way too late, partly because of a lack of information, lack of knowledge and awareness around the auction process, and I'm talking in generalities here. So there are some incredible operators out there. But in a lot of cases, particularly with a lot of agents that are relatively new to the game, I'm talking within the last couple of years where the market's been pretty good, they've relied upon the campaign, the market, bringing buyers up to the level that vendors are hoping for. They are. It's happening. Whether we like it or not, it's happening. I'm seeing it every weekend, as much as I'm trying to bang on the door. Leaving the reserve conversations to the last week, all right, or even the last few days, where they go, right, we're going to come and have a chat to you or do a Zoom with you, and that's when we need to talk about reserve. Bollocks, team. You must be talking about your reserve strategy, not the reserve, not the fixed point as such, right? You need to be talking about reserve strategy. If you don't know what I'm talking about around reserve strategy, you need to get yourself fucking educated real fast. Because if you're still talking about the reserve, even if you're talking about it from the start, but even if you're talking about it as a set point, you are making vendors, sellers feel like you are railroading them into an outcome. That is not cool for them. Therefore, it is not cool for you. Therefore, anything you try to say to have any influence where, about market results or data or comparatives or whatever it is, will fall on deaf ears. If you talk about reserve strategy and making them fully aware right from the get-go that up until the point that hammer falls or the auction is concluded, that reserve can move up or down. And you need to make sure that you express to them that we might be in a situation where we might want to make sure, within the realms of legitimacy, that we want to make sure that we pass it in because there's clearly a front runner that we want to have a chat to after the event. We don't want to leave any money out there if we can afford it, right? Or if we can make it happen. Not just talking about going down, not just talking about flexibility in case we need to come and meet the market and blah, 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 which is standard vernacular, up or down. Talk about 360-degree movement with that, or 180-degree movement, sorry, shall I say. Yeah? And make them feel like there is that level of control, that level of flexibility, because then you are going to create flexibility in their minds. But that conversation needs to start at the beginning. I've been trying to say to lots of people that reserve strategy conversation, in theory, needs to be talked about before you've even listed the damn thing. You need to let them in and let them know the strategy, the thinking, the mindset, the intelligence that you're going to use in order to make the most of the situation that is put in front of us, which we won't know until the day, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, because we're dealing with the one certainty, which is the uncertainty of human behavior. None of us can control that. So we need to make sure we put parameters around that uncertainty to give us the confidence that we're still going in the same direction, whichever which way it goes. So critical that you have that conversation with them at the beginning and then regularly. And I'm talking about having, because nowadays with Zoom, there's no excuse that you shouldn't be having weekly conversations, even if it's just 10, 15 minutes with every single one of your sellers every single week. And don't worry about, but I haven't got time. Bullshit. We've all got time, but you need to make sure that you protect and value your time. So instead of, because the biggest thing that everybody says to me whenever I say this, whenever I make that comment, is they say, but I haven't got time for all of that. Bollocks. They're paying your fucking check. You've got time for them. But what you need to do is let them know how long the conversations are going to take. And then apart from anything else, they'll probably be relieved that they're only going to take 10, 15 minutes or 20 minutes tops. You can do them from the comfort of your own home, in your car, while you're waiting for another appointment. If another appointment's not turned up, whatever it is, right? We've all got time to make that happen. Every single week, you need to be having conversations with your vendor. And with those conversations, needs to be feedback, analysis of feedback, comparatives that have come onto the market, and analysis of those in terms of how they are going to affect buyer mindset around that, around the target property that we're talking about. And then solutions, A, B, C, D, at the very least. A's always start, A's always, we can always continue on as we are. And that's, of course, if you're going, well, wicked, let's just keep it rocking. If it's not, then that's the definition of insanity, doing the same shit and expecting a different outcome. And then you work through other situations, other things that you could suggest, marketing changes, price changes, whatever the case may be. I'm not going to start preaching about that. We'll be here forever. Yeah, every week. And then at the end of that, how all of that affects where that reserve strategy might play within. If they're wanting if their dream figure's 900, okay, let's talk about reserve strategy either side of that. Based on price feedback, we might need to adjust our reserve strategy. We might need to nudge it just a bit, just in that train of thought, to make sure that we've got ourselves enough attention in order to make this shit happen. Okay? Very, very important that those conversations at the very beginning. Now, here is probably when it comes to collaborating with vendors, not vendor management, it's vendor collaboration team. You work as a team, not as a dictatorship, because you should never, ever, ever be dictating to someone in their home. It's not your fucking home. You shouldn't be dictating in it. Collaboration is the key here. And the key to that is making sure that you are explaining recent success stories in the area that they are undoubtedly pinning their hopes on in full detail. Now, for a lot of people, this is a slight tweak because I'm sure the vast majority, if not all of you, will be going into listing presentations and beyond, knowing what results have happened here, there, and everywhere, right? All around the property that you're working on. But the problem is the way that we communicate that is very surface level again. The language that we use is very surface level. It's what's happened, not how it's happened or why it's happened. It's just what's happened. Oh, look, Mr. and Mrs. Seller. Yeah, they tell you, oh, look, did you see that one down the road went for 1.68 million? What? Yeah, look, I did see it. That's an amazing result. That's fantastic. That means that buyers could come and pay more for yours then, because that's exactly what they're thinking. And then because agents in the main, they hate to go against the energy for the sake of preserving this fucking super fragile, thin relationship that they fucking bullshitting themselves that they've got. Instead of being open and real and saying, yeah, look, 1.68, and how they did it was the fact that it was quoted between X and Y. Now, I've not managed to find out where the reserve actually was, but what I do know is that it went on the market at 1.55. There was then an emotional tax of $130,000 paid on top of that in order to get to that 1.68. Now, what that means, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, is that when we're looking at our reserve strategy, we've got to pay attention to how much emotional tax is being paid on all of these properties, because there's your cream. The longer you leave your buyers in logic, the less likely you are of getting any real emotional tax paid on that property, on your property. Yeah? Just dig a tiny bit deeper and explain how it got there. The amount of auctions that are failing because vendors are seeing 1.68 and then setting a reserve at that level. And that's not the way the game is played, team. You know that. So why aren't we explaining that in greater detail at all times? Right? We've got to be on this, team. If you're not on this now, you're going to be screwed in about 2 months, right? Because you're going to be dealing with the same stock that you were dealing with now. They are likely to be looking elsewhere. You are likely to be missing out on opportunities because the frustration and the anxiety of not selling a property, it failing at auction, and then you're not having any backup plan. You got vendors up a high, all that rest of it causes you stress. You're still trying to make up from earlier in the year. You will have clouded judgment that will make you miss opportunity. You got to get on that shit now. 2022 is depending on you getting on this now. If you try and kid yourselves into thinking that this is still a rocketing red hot market, you're going to get such a rude awakening in a couple of months' time. Maybe on the October 26th, that might be your first slap in the face come October 30th, right? But gang, you got to get this, and it happens every change in environment, every change in conditions. We are literally like the Titanic, and it's reflected in everything that we do, right? So take marketing, for example. How many of yous are putting out spring campaign stuff now? Spring's already here. You're too late. You need to be formulating Christmas. You need to have had it done by now. You should be having your Christmas stuff locked and loaded and probably rocking by end of October, middle of October. Now, everything has to operate in 3-month cycles, team, at least. Your results do that naturally because of settlements and stuff. So why the fuck aren't you applying that to everything? Oh, because it's just purely because of laziness. You feel that you're just going to try and eke every last little bit of this red hot market until it's gone. Well, for me, I'd rather have my market stay pretty warm all the time, if you ask me. That, for me, would be much nicer. Lest you enjoy being on that roller coaster of real estate, which I'm pretty confident no one enjoys being on. Is that fair? Is that fair? I think so. I think it's absolutely fair. All right. So, team, please, God, please, vendor conversations, seller conversations around reserve strategy right from day one. Understand buyers, because of society, and not enough of us pay attention to society, human behavior, right? At scale. Everybody's going to start to feel like they've got their freedom back. Pressure will ease. And it will reflect in all of their actions. Fact. I'll bet the house on that one. Really, really will. Anyway, what we got on here? Paul, good week, Andy. 2 new listings today. 1 contract, 50 grand over list price. Nice, mate. Good work. Troy, I will message you. I'm still a force of nature. Whatever. Hi, Andy. Is it across all price points? Is it across all price points? I'm seeing a few different speeds at different price points. You know what? I'll probably apply what I said before to this as well. I mean, look, you're always going to have certain types of property that will ebb and flow in different sort of ways, right? So, you might get a rush on of development properties, for example, because of, there'll be some offers that are out there in lending land or whatever the case may be. Honestly speaking, though, I don't think it really matters what price point we're talking about, what type of property we're talking about. Our methodology, our theory, the way that we rock and roll has to be the same. It has to be the same across the board. We have to have that awareness, that alertness to just to making sure that our sellers are in reality at all times. I'm not talking negativity. Reality can include some ambition, team, by the way. But I feel that, look, my personal view on, how things are rocking and rolling, that generally speaking, I'm getting wins and losses at every level. Last weekend was a perfect example, actually, because I had some family homes that fizzled and sold after. And then I had a couple of development projects that went mental. I had a house that went mental. I had a development project that went soft. Doesn't matter what type of what price point it is. Really doesn't. If anything, the bottom rung, where the first home buyers are, that's still going to run pretty wild for a little while, because you haven't really got far down. And I'm talking real super entry level. We're talking established property or units, not apartments. Established property units at that sort of 500 plus, 5 to 6 or 450 to 650 sort of level. That market's going to rock and roll, because it just is. That's where the bottom price pyramid, standard stuff. But I still think you're going to have, there's wins and losses in every market right now. I was chatting to someone in Sydney, great guy, Matt Shalub, director of Under the Hammer, incredibly knowledgeable guy. And he goes, he actually believes that old school financial society parameters are starting to get reformed again, because there's some people that are still piffing millions at stuff from fucking God knows where. Right. So yeah, I think it's at every point. Linda, good to see you. Where's your pink gavel? WA will get restrictions as the country opens up. Every state needs to go through the process of reopening. Agreed. They will have more choice and more stock. Agreed. Get back to the basics is the key. Get out of the comfort zone. Never lose the basics, right, Pierre? That's why I like working with you, because you are getting the best of now, but you're not losing the basic human mechanics of what's going on. Linda, autumn is spring stuff. If you don't want to eat 2-minute noodles 6 months from now, pull your finger out. Couldn't agree more, Linda. Could not agree more, my dear. I really couldn't. Team, consider this, please, as your kick up the bottom, because you need it. We all need it. The industry at scale needs it. If you keep clinging on to this hot market, God help you. All right? Because the real smart ones are already playing 3 to 6 months ahead of you. Okay? Where you are is where the majority are right now. You don't want to be there. You don't want to be reactive. You want to have control of your own game. Comes back to one of my sayings that I've been saying a bit recently. Either be a slave to the game or a servant of the game. Pick. One's way fucking more painful than the other. I can guarantee you that, and you know which one it is. This is the sort of shit that defines whether you are a slave or a servant. Pick. But make that conscious decision to pick. And if you pick and go the right way, servant way, and you know as well as I do, you got to sharpen the skill set. You got to become way more aware of macroeconomics. You got to become way more aware of human behavior, behavioral economics. Right? This is all that shit that I'm here to help you with. All right, gang. Have yourselves a rock and roll weekend. Prepare yourselves for some tough conversations. Prepare yourselves for some battles. Take the wins when they're there, but don't pat yourself on the bum for too long, because you always got to keep working ahead of time. All right, campers, stay safe, healthy, happy, and go rock and roll. Take it easy, team.